Hi, I'm Michelle Duxbury, also known as Alabama13. We're at my studio at the Art House in Wakefield and I'm part of the YSI Sculpture Network. I didn't do a sort of traditional arts degree pathway into being an artist. When I was at university back in the 90s, I actually did a degree and an MA in sociology. Well, art was something that I'd wanted to do, and my parents, they were very adamant that art was not what people like us did. We didn't get to be artists. I'd always wanted to go to art college, and I think I was just like encouraged by a few people. I went and did a foundation at Leeds Art College when I was like 40. My exhibition at the Art House, the photographs of the little traces of things and the different textures and things like that, they actually became the soundscape that was played in the space as well. The sound was created from those images. Being a disabled person and thinking a lot about accessibility in general, I'm just like, well, how can someone experience that if, you know, they are blind or visually impaired? I'm really interested in a more tactile response to sound. It's like, how can you feel sound? How can you hear images? How can you see sound? It's all that kind of coming together, I guess. One of the sort of underlying thematic things in my work comes from being a disabled person. And I think it also comes a lot from the sociology background that I have, from the fact that I love horror films, and I have this little theory about how ghosts can actually be viewed as quite a subversive feminist statement. I don't know, I tend to always get this feeling that ghosts are always presented very much as non-male entities, thinking about that sort of like very stereotypical, you know, like sort of gender, like very binary idea around like how women shouldn't take up space and they should be quiet, and then looking at ghosts in films, and I think you see quite well in some like Japanese horror films that have ghosts in. These entities come back and they take up space and they make noise and they create chaos. And I just love that. I mean, because there's so much wrong with horror films in terms of how terribly unfeminist horror films are. But I love that idea of taking the power that had been denied them in, you know, in life. I mean, unfortunately, you have to get to that point that you're dead to be able to reclaim that power. I've always had that little idea around that, and I guess like that's why, you know, in the central piece in the video it goes, you know, my ghost will haunt you, is like basically how it finishes. It's like that's the thing, it's this that anger of being sort of like denied agency, I guess, but it's also this feeling of invisibility, I guess, as a disabled person, particularly but not limited to COVID. You know, it's never been great. It's kind of like on medical advice, I had to stop using public transport many, many years ago because it was too dangerous to my health. But then you become very isolated, and you know, the spaces that you can be a part of become very, very limited. And this idea of like becoming invisible in plain sight, like becoming a ghost in plain sight, and how if you are not around other people, what do you mirror yourself against? It's like it comes very much as this very sort of existential, like, what is a person? Like, what is a human if you are totally isolated on your own?